History caused huge disasters. I thought this would be fun and lighthearted, which is why I was going. We literally have a man worth $1 trillion. No joke.
Today, we're going to see how some small mistakes in history led to some pretty big consequences. So strap in with your favorite
I feel like it's kind of related.
Because here we go.
Ew. Golden Age ended because of a booty call.
King of Scots Alexander III was revered by his subjects as a kind and noble king, so he was a pretty cool guy. He put an end to an ongoing war with Norway with the signing of the Treaty of Perth.
The horse gotta be here, like Trojan?
From doing their stereotypical graping and pillaging and made them frig off back to Norway. The treaty also let Scotland gain possession of the Western Isles and the Isle of Man. With all this land expansion going on, as well as increased exports and cash flow, Scotland entered a bit of a golden age.
Dude, imagine if it was all
Everything was
Scotland.
pretty good until it wasn't.
Just kilts
After
galore.
all, no story is complete without some good old-fashioned character development from a Disney Pixar family tragedy. In the mid-1280s, King Alexander's wife, Queen Margaret, bit the dust, which was pretty devastating since they were married since childhood. Well, at least he had his own children to care for. Except for the fact that they all died too.
Oh,
Little
sick.
Margaret Jr., who hilariously became Queen of Norway, expired at the age of 22 while pooping out her only child, a daughter named Margaret.
Why say it like that?
We'll get to her later. Alex Jr. died on his 20th birthday at the age of 20.
What are
Don't know how
these
he died either. Sources
stock
just say
photos?
He just died. The youngest child, David, also kicked an uneventful bucket at age 19. With his family tree essentially trimmed down to the trunk, Alex was desperate to generate new successors, so he married a French countess, Yolanda of Dreux. She lived with the king, but like in a different town for some reason. Well, one night the king was acting pretty eager to perform. So he set out to do the deed of sowing his seed, and nothing was going to block his urge to splurge.
Oh, is he gonna die?
Nope, not even that. Despite pleads and warnings
Is he gonna die in the storm?
advisors, the king set out to get his dunk sunk. He had a few of his servants accompany him as guides, and they made it to the queen, but the king, on the other hand,
oh no, he was going to the queen
in the harsh storm and was subsequently yeeted off of his horse over a cliff where he was found the next morning.
Oh my god, dude.
With no other heir, it was Margaret Jr.'s time to shine. But since she was only 3 years old and with the attention span of a goldfish, the political landscape of Scotland fell into ruin. Ending the short.
Dude, literally imagine. You think he was more mad knowing that I'm gonna die and my country's gonna lose, or like, oh, I'm not getting any? Like he's falling off the cliff. What do you think he's going through his head? Like, oh man, I guess I'm not getting any. It's probably more important. I wish we could ask him.
Golden Age. All because the king needed to slam some sweet queen skush.
She's using really gross words. A lost key doomed
As
Titanic?
I'm sure you know, the luxurious ocean liner Titanic was the ship of dreams that ended up becoming a complete nightmare. The ship died in 1912 after Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet distracted the two lookouts in the crow's nest from observing the giant fucking iceberg floating
I was ready
several
for
hundred
it.
feet
You
in
can't
front
get
of them.
me.
Despite the crew's best efforts, the ship collided with the iceberg and got flushed into the North Atlantic a few hours later. Joking aside, it is believed that the entire disaster could have been prevented or at least significantly reduced if it weren't for one key mistake, an actual missing key. Lookouts
that's huge.
Frederick
Thanks.
Fleet and Reginald Lee were tasked with the important
Appreciate
task
it.
of making sure that no icebergs were in the ship's path. In the crow's nest, the two men were equipped with a warning bell and a telephone
Quit
to alert
punishing
the
me!
crew of any potential dangers in the chilled waters ahead. They also had one more tool, a pair of binoculars which were secured in a box, a locked box with a missing key. Apparently, this key was accidentally taken off of the ship before it set sail by a second officer.
You tell me the Titanic went down because they didn't have any binoculars on board? This has got to be some BS. Like, this story happens to coincide. It can't be the reason.
What's this here in my pocket? Huh. I'm sure that's not a big deal. With no binoculars, the lookouts had to rely on eyesight alone. And that wouldn't be so terrible if it weren't for the fact that the night
I guess
was
they were the
extremely
lookouts.
dark, cold and calm, making it very hard to see icebergs. Luckily, there were almost none all night. Almost.
It only takes one. It only takes one.
Both lookouts miraculously survived the sinking and, when interviewed, agreed that if they had binoculars, they could have seen the iceberg and reacted
I wouldn't have told
quickly.
Brother, you could not have yanked that information out of me. I'd be like, I don't know. It's dark. Couldn't see my binoculars were there. I don't know what happened. I wouldn't be like, I probably could have fixed it. Look at the tragedy that's happening. And you're like, if I would have had my binoculars, things would have been fine. Couldn't have got me.
Avoiding the
Couldn't have got
unnecessary
me.
loss of over 1,500 lives, but dooming James Cameron's film career. The key, donated to the British Sailor Society by Officer Blair's daughter, was eventually sold at auction for 90,000 British pounds.
Higher than the metric system in the
If you've
U.S.
ever dealt with the trouble of remembering how many tablespoons are in a gallon, or that there's 660 feet in a furlong, you probably long for the ease of the metric system. Being an American myself, I'm genetically inclined to detest the anti-freedom units, but getting
Yep.
an engineering degree made me appreciate the simplicity of the metric system.
It does work very well.
Guys, it's really great. Everything is just a multiplicative of 10. Kilogram, it's 1,000 grams. A meter, it's 100
Yep.
centimeters. Like, wow, amazing. Anyway, that convenience was stolen from us by a band of scallywag pirates during America's infancy.
How?
In 1793, Secretary of State Thomas Mother Effin Jefferson
Did you know? Apparently, I did find out that the metric system actually is supposed to be. It is like our default, but nobody uses it. It was like in the 80s or something like that we converted on paper, like said like, hey, we're gonna switch over, but like nobody listened to it or cared or gave a damn, and so we're just still here using that. No metric for us, but it is technically the official system of the U.S. So I thought that was a fun fact. Found that out the other day.
recognized that the United States needed to standardize their units of measure as multiple systems were being used, making commercial trading a logistical nightmare. Luckily, the French of all people had an answer. Scientist Joseph Dombey was dispatched to the United States with a special gift, a carefully crafted copper cylinder which would serve as the revolutionary new standard in weight measurement, the kilogram.
What? Oh, okay. Very nice.
Just one component of France's newly developing metric system. While sailing to the States with his cylinder in one hand and the kilogram in the other, Dombey's ship was blown off
Nice.
course by a storm.
And the cylinder could not be damaged. It's a big deal that the cylinder is not damaged.
Now headed for the 1700s Caribbean. British pirates at the time usually attacked non-British ships to impede their trade, and unfortunately Dombey was one of those victims.
Oh,
he was
no.
held hostage for ransom but died in captivity.
So he just never made it
Dombey's
before
death
we
meant that
did it.
Jefferson never got the metric standard, meaning it was never adopted. So the United States stuck with the English units as their standard.
That's
While
crazy.
It is possible that we could all be measuring our all beef franks using centimeters. It's doubtful, as multiple attempts.
It would
over
just
the
be
years
easier if it
to
was that
implement the
way.
metric
But KMH on cars doesn't look as cool as MPH. The rest of it I'm okay with. Feet, yards can go away to meters and stuff like that. I'm good with all that, but it's really cool in cars. Going 100 in MPH versus KMH just feels it's different. It's different, and I stand by that.
system have been defeated at the greasy hand of American pride.
Chile word started a
Ethiopia and
war.
Italy typically aren't two countries that you would hear about in the same sentence. But during the late 1800s, when Africa was getting absolutely reamed by colonization, Italy had its sights set on some potential land expansion candidates. One of them being, you guessed it, Eritrea, Ethiopia's northern neighbor. This led to a bit of an unofficial scuffle called the Italo-Ethiopian War of 1887, which lasted for 2 years and ended with Italy formally occupying Eritrea and the signing of the Treaty of Wuchal. Among other rules, the treaty basically stated that peace was to remain between Italy and Ethiopia. However, one article had two different meanings between languages. In Italian, the article stated that Ethiopia must act through Italy if they wish to do business with other governments. The Amharic or Ethiopian version
Not the unknowns.
stated that Ethiopia can act through Italy for external business, which suggested that it wasn't mandatory. Very different things. The treaty was nonetheless signed, and eventually the two countries clashed again. Italy claimed that it had full control over Ethiopia's external
They're gonna
affairs,
mess
but
it up.
Ethiopia claimed, "Nuh-uh, dude." Italy then invaded Ethiopia in 1895,
That's
starting
crazy.
the official First Italo-Ethiopian War. With Italy's army of 44,000 against Ethiopia's 125,000,
Oh my
the
God.
Italians ended up getting their spaghetti-eating teeth kicked in, securing Ethiopia's independence in 1896.
How did they not take over Italy?
Until
I guess they didn't have
invaded
to.
again in 1935. Italy won that
That
time.
recent?
All in all, around 25,000 lives were lost during the First Italo-Ethiopian War. All
That's
because
crazy.
Italy decided to skip
It's not even a huge number considering the like vast difference in like army size. Sounds paranoia letters. I feel like I've heard this one.
To millions of food-hungry citizens, your people will probably hate you, which is something that Joseph Stalin was shocked to find out when leading the Soviet Union from 1924 until his death in 1953. Although he came into power with some strong initial support, it quickly dried up as his first few years sucked eggs. He went balls deep into national industrialization and uprooted the agricultural system. No food means famine, and famine means people die.
Maybe a little
So
bit more
people
balance there,
died.
buddy.
Millions of them. Stalin was now officially an asshole, and assholes need to be wiped clean. His political rivals demanded his removal, prompting Stalin to switch to defense mode. In doing so, he began stringent investigations of the government for anyone who might even toy with the idea of questioning his policies. Yes, hello.
I don't know if this is paranoia. This seems like power consolidation. I don't know about paranoia.
No one was safe. During what came to be known as the Great Purge between 1936 and 1938, Stalin expanded his investigations to anyone he deemed a threat to the Soviet Union. By the end, there were over 700,000 documented executions of workers, artists, teachers, whoever, while in reality it is estimated to be about 1.2 million. Even his own Red Army saw 37,000 soldiers executed or sentenced to labor camps. And these weren't just lowly foot soldiers either, I'm talking like commanders and generals, his top guys. Stalin was absolutely unhinged, with his paranoia destroying his mental and physical health. He ended up surviving a severe heart attack and a stroke in 1945, with his health never fully recovering. On the night of February 28, 1953, Stalin was chilling with some bros, watching movies and having dinner. After a long night of joking and smooches, Stalin retired to his private quarters, specifically instructing not to be disturbed until he woke up the next morning. Well, the next morning
they murder
came
him?
and nothing. Afternoon, nothing.
Oh, did he die?
His closest friends were terrified of defying him,
oh
lest they be sent
no.
to the gulag.
Oh no.
Still nothing. And by now, they're pretty worried. It wasn't until 11 p.m. that a housekeeper dared to check on Stalin. He was found on the ground unconscious and unresponsive. Still terrified to call the doctor, it
He have a
took another
stroke?
8 hours for Stalin to receive medical attention.
Brother, it's not like they were watching TV or something at this time. You think you're just sitting there watching him like, what do we do? I don't know. Maybe he'll get up. I think we just wait this one out a little longer. Everything's going to be fine. Everything was indeed not fine.
With an extremely high blood pressure of 190/110, Stalin had suffered another intense stroke. He received around-the-clock care for 3 days before he ultimately despawned on March 5th, 1953.
Not despawned.
Had he been kinder to his bros and not such a complete butthole, he may have been treated sooner and survived his ailment, even if it was short-lived. The Soviet Union eventually collapsed in 1991. And there we have it.
That'll
you
do
can
it.
clearly see how small itty-bitty mistakes can lead to some severe consequences.
Craziness.
So
Craziness.